Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here today on this MS Dynamics World panel, the benefits and future of AP automation from invoice to payment for Dynamics ERP. And I want to thank our sponsor today, Metafile Viewer, for bringing this all together. So we can start right off, and we'll have our panel introduce themselves and tell us who they are and what they do. Why don't we start with Robert?
Thanks, Rick. My name is Robert West. I am the Director of Corporate Development for OnPay Solutions, a trusted partner of MetaViewer, and I manage our partnerships and our corporate strategy.
Okay, great. Over to you, Diane.
Hi, my name is Diane Lee Sousa. I've been a part of the Dynamics community for over 20 years, first as a partner, now as a customer. I'm currently working with Exchange Income Corporation, helping our companies with digital strategies and implementing those strategies.
Great. So you'll be able to give us a view from sort of both sides of the camera, right? You know, what a partner has to see and then what the customer does. So this is great to have you here today. Okay, over to you, Doug.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Yeah, my name is Doug Bertram. I'm one of the regional managers for a company called Metafile. We're very known for our AP automation MetaViewer solution, and I'm kind of excited to share my experiences with the hundreds of clients who've kind of helped over the years and kind of interact with the panel today.
So Doug, we're going to start with you and our first question, and it's been a really interesting last 12 months in the IT world and in the world in general. So let's talk a little bit about AP invoice payment systems, and what did we learn last year, and what happened to the companies that were automated and other companies that didn't quite have everything automated?
Yeah, last year was definitely a challenging year. It really kind of caught almost all companies off guard a little bit as they're kind of scrambling as to how to work remote and how having everybody out of their house and not being able to shuffle their paper-based processes around. And so our clients that have already implemented the solution, they were very glad that they did put the system in place, and they were pretty well prepared for the challenges of 2020 because when you do have an automation solution in place that's electronic and everything is flowing around, it really doesn't matter where the users are. And I actually had one of my clients, one of my CFOs, kind of tell me that it's probably one of the best decisions he's ever made. And those that have been dragging their feet, I've got hundreds of clients that I've had opportunities with, some for a long time, that they kind of dragged their feet or whatever. A lot of them kind of deeply regretted that. Unfortunately, we were able to help many of them get a solution implemented in pretty short order so that they could adapt to the changes that we saw last year.
So do you think that there are still some companies out there struggling with paper?
Certainly, right? If there wasn't, I would probably be out of business.
Great. Okay, over to you, Robert. Any sort of stories from your side of the picture?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of background on us, we're focused on the payment automation piece, basically handling the next stage in the AP cycle right after the MetaViewer software, for instance. And we have clients that are on both a cloud solution, which is what we sell today. Those clients were able to successfully navigate the pandemic. However, we had a few clients that were still on our legacy solution that was on premise, and they had some pretty significant troubles when the pandemic set in. So kind of one story that we've talked about, it's kind of comical to look back at it because fortunately we've moved them to the cloud sense and they're now navigating this new remote world successfully. But this particular story, they had a situation where they all had to vacate the office in the locale they were at. They were on full lockdown, and the accounting manager had to go and get their microtoner printer from their office, bring it to her house, and she was printing company checks at her house because she had the installed product on her laptop, right? So she was still using the system to print checks, but had to do so at her home. And we all know that's a security nightmare, right? She's printing checks, have sensitive banking detail on an unsecured or relatively insecure Wi-Fi connection, right? Not only that, the CFO happened to live in the neighborhood and he would drive by and sign checks on her front porch. So just absolute nightmare from a security standpoint. And then just the labor involved with that process, right? So kind of both sides of the story there for both of our users. And then those that, didn't have a solution at all, they found, pretty significant labor savings and just the ability to work remotely with our cloud solution.
Thank you. So Diane, how did, in your world as a customer now, how did you deal with, the pandemic and everybody being locked down?
Well, we were halfway through. I currently work with 7 entities in a shared service model. And so we were only halfway through the companies. So when the lockdown hit, we quickly, like extremely fast, got the other 3 companies on. It saved us. We happened to be in the aviation space, so we had to lay off a lot of people due to the pandemic, and we were still able to process our paper because of choosing Medivure and get through it. So it really helped us a ton.
So what do you think we learned in this pandemic, sort of going forward, around this portion of our accounting system? Like, what do we need to really be prepared for going forward in the future?
The impact of the 2020 pandemic had us on AP automation. In the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't know exactly how the virus is transmitted. So we had to quarantine our paper for 48 hours. And then we had to have somebody drive to the office to scan everything in so that it could get distributed. So our paper started sitting for a long time. And this was not an efficient process, obviously, to get our vendors paid. So what 2020 and the pandemic did for us was it made change management a lot less difficult because our vendors quickly realized that the best way to do this was to digitally send us things and have it completely scooped up right away. So paperless soon became the norm for a relationship between us and our vendors. I don't think the adoption rate pre-2020 or pre-pandemic would have been as high and as quick had we not had the roadblocks of not knowing. And that was a bonus because we really, really have a huge high adoption rate with and I can tell you, none of our vendors want to go back to the old way. They like this.
Well,
lots of clarity, lots of transparency.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a lot of people, speed up their digital transformation in this last year because it kind of forced them to, and they're seeing that it's better. So Doug, what are you seeing with customers? What are they starting to do now that we're coming out of the pandemic to really get ready for their future business?
Yeah, I think as I kind of said in the last discussion point was that so many companies always thought AP automation was important, but maybe like I said, I've been working with hundreds of clients that just haven't pulled the trigger yet, and I think 2020 proved to the companies that this is a much more pressing need when something like that happens than they previously thought. And those companies that did implement AP automation either in the past or last year have really kind of have really benefited from the automation of their processes and the standardization of their business processes. And we as a company, we keep improving the product. We learn stuff from every implementation we do. And so as we get more and more clients to pull the trigger, I think that's just going to advance our processes and allow us to better the solutions and do more touchless processing and help people standardize a little bit better. And I would kind of echo on kind of what Diane said too. I think on the vendor side of the equation, I think vendors are really seeing the benefit here too, because we're talking kind of from what is it like from the AP processing side, but as a vendor side, they had challenges as well. If you were printing invoices out and putting them in envelopes and mailing them out, how do you do that when there's not somebody sitting by that printer? Unless they're going to put it on their front porch or take the printer home, like Robert said earlier, it makes things difficult. So we're seeing vendors distributing many more are distributing them directly via email, right from their ERP right to the client. And that actually helps the client because it becomes more automated on their side. The system just watches the email box, pulls it in, and processes it without anybody having to open up that mail and scan everything in. And the vendors benefit, right? Because they don't have to pay for the postage and the printing and all those types of things as well.
Thank you. Robert, from your perspective, what are you seeing customers do to really future-proof their business?
Yeah, well, a variety of things. Very, very open-ended question there. I would say, for us on the payment side, for the most part, it's just doing everything that they can to get off of paper checks. You'd be surprised here in the U.S. versus the rest of the world, we're still heavily using checks as a B2B payment method. For instance, if you go and look at Europe, checks are obsolete. They don't use checks at all. I mean, there are circumstances from a consumer perspective, they might use a paper check. But I think for the most part, organizations, particularly those that are sophisticated enough here in the US to kind of understand AP automation and the benefits and the value prop that we all deliver, are trying to just completely remove themselves from paper-based processes, most notably checks in our world. So if we can move them to ACH and VCAR, we're happy to help.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about on this subject, from the automation, what are some of the soft and hard, benefits and ROI that customers actually get from, from the automation?
Yeah, great question there. I'd be happy to kind of lead us off on that one. The hard ROI pieces are actually pretty easy to speak to. While we want to remove our clients from checks at all possible, we understand that many of their vendors are still going to want to receive checks. It's just kind of the way some of those vendors are. We hope that that'll change in the next 5 years, but understand that we're still able to deliver those checks on behalf of our clients at a much cheaper cost than what they can do internally. So for instance, most organizations spend anywhere between $3.50 and $5 to send out a check, right? That includes the microtoner, the check stock, the envelope, the postage. For us, it's going to be a little over $1. So there's pretty immediate savings there. And then also on the virtual card piece, that's where we can provide significant upside. We're able to generate revenue for our clients in many cases. We have some clients that are receiving 6 figures in virtual card rebate revenue on an annual basis. And that's more than covering the cost of all the other payment types, check, ACH, and wires. So, I mean, from a hard ROI perspective, pretty easy to quantify. From soft ROI perspective, all these organizations are saving a tremendous amount of labor hours, in many cases 10 to 20 hours a week. While we don't position this as a solution to eliminate anybody, right? We don't want to take away jobs, but we do want to help reallocate those labor hours to more useful tasks. I think the idea, right, is that writing checks and manually sending ACHs through your bank portal is really rote and really monotonous, and those folks can be better used elsewhere in their departments.
Okay, thanks. Doug, do you want to add anything around sort of the soft and hard benefits and ROI?
Sure. Yeah, I can kind of piggyback on what Robert was saying there. I mean, the concept is from a hard ROI perspective, you're repurposing your folks to do more value add stuff, and that kind of leads to some of the soft costs. But what we've really seen from a hard ROI kind of perspective with clients is they don't have to add additional staff when growth happens or people retired, right? So then you didn't necessarily need to replace those folks. And with the pandemic, if you kind of did have to downsize, and you can kind of maybe bring back people, a little bit slower at a slower pace than before. Capitalizing on your early pay discounts, if you have those. Clients that are pushing paper typically take 2-3 weeks to process an invoice. Well, you're missing out on all of those. And so if a vendor does offer early pay discounts, you obviously want to capitalize on that. From a soft ROI perspective, that's kind of where you can get your staff to do a little bit more value add stuff and more visibility into how you're spending your money, analyzing your key performance indicators, having tighter controls on your spending and accountability to people, streamlining your processes. All those are the kinds of things that clients look at when investigating an AP automation solution.
Okay, great, thanks. So Diane, because you have experience with sort of being a partner as well as being an end user customer, maybe you can talk about perceived soft and hard benefits of this type of automation.
I think that Robert and Doug really summed up exactly. We got to reallocate resources in a different way when that's your hard ROI, but the soft ROI is better job satisfaction with the people in the payables department because they got to do more proactive work, not chasing approvals. Every invoice in our environment needs to be approved, so they're not chasing managers, trying to find paper, phoning back vendors. They're actually doing proactive work, analyzing metrics, and just did better visibility, as I said earlier, and transparency has made their job satisfaction better. So that's an important soft ROI.
So are you seeing? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on that too. In terms of the job satisfaction, we find that a lot of even the approvers really love the solution as well because they have that visibility and everything that they need. And you think of approvers a lot of times from an AP perspective. You think of those approvers as being kind of a pain because they take forever to respond. But really, in a paper-based process, they weren't given the right tools to be able to do that. And when we really find that the approvers love, they love the solution. They love the visibility and everything as well.
We couldn't take it away. There's another one, like the approvers. There's no turning back.
Okay, so
right.
we're seeing that through automation that this one sort of siloed process within an organization, through workflows can be brought to wherever those approvers sit, right? Whatever departments or geographies that they're located, we can fully automate that now. And I think the pandemic has really proven that we don't all have to be in one room, one building anymore. We can be wherever we need to be to do business. So go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing. That's all.
Okay, good. So let's kind of go ahead and start talking about what are we seeing in the future of technology. Accounting systems in general. Are people trusting that we're moving everything off premise and into the cloud? And then, the invoice to payment side of things, what are we really seeing in the future? And how's that going to change from, both sides of the supply chain? And why don't we start with Doug on that?
I think the future, kind of holds that, as more people adopt, like I said, we kind of talked about the vendors are now changing the way that they distribute things and being able to send things electronically. And I think you kind of always improve as time goes on. I had one CFO that talked to me, when we were actually in the middle of implementing when the pandemic broke out, and they actually had they had some viruses or things that kind of impacted their on-premises type of solutions, and he told his staff, adversity forces leading companies to adapt and come out stronger on the other side. He's seen it many times in his career, and 2020 definitely forced companies to adapt. And so I think implementing the technologies has really helped them move forward and improve. And kind of as I said towards the beginning too, we as a company, the more people that adopt, that's more that we learn because there's so many different businesses out there, and it helps us improve the technology to advance that forward as well.
Okay, thanks. Robert, what does the future hold in your lens?
Yes, I think here kind of in the immediate future, you'll see tighter integrations between procurement, invoice, and payment products, stuff to address the entire procure through pay segment, right? We often hear P2P, but as it is now, most of these products are I'm not going to say disconnected because that's a bad word, but they're for the most part independent of each other. And so I think you're going to start seeing tighter integrations between these products, maybe to the extent to where there's one product, right, that solves the entire P2P cycle. I think beyond that, I think if you just look largely at working capital, right, not just the AP side, but the receivable side, there's this working capital ecosystem that is comprised of a variety of extension products, right, like the MetaViewer solution, like our solution, but there's stuff on the AR side as well. I think if we look even further down the road, we'll probably see communication and integrations between systems on the other side of the kind of proverbial aisle within the working capital realm that is AR.
Okay, thank you. Diane, is there anything that you see sort of coming down, the future road here in payment technology?
I think that Doug and Robert summed it up. Like, that's exactly where we're going. Bigger or quicker adoption in this world, in the digital, and getting it done. This is what 2020 has left us.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see, considerable growth in this area because, as Robert was saying, people want to see one system. They want to see one view of technology, and they want to be able to pull this all together. So on that note, I'm going to finish up with Doug. And Doug, tell us how MetaViewer can help customers actually get all this future proofing done.
Sure. I kind of like to piggyback off of what Robert said on the last question there too, just kind of add a little bit. AP is really kind of the tip of the iceberg, and we've been in this industry for actually over 40 years now, really helping clients really implement paperless solutions across their enterprise, and we still really do a lot of that. It seems like the tides have turned over the years. We did a lot of proof of delivery back in the 80s and early 90s, and then it kind of shifted to AP automation being the focus. And a lot of our clients we see where they, once they learn and they streamline that AP process, there's so much other parts of their organization that they can benefit from doing a lot of the same things. So we do a lot of that with our clients to expand it. But really, we're kind of here to help. We've been doing this a long time. When you partner with us and Robert's team, you really benefit from our experiences of implementing with hundreds and hundreds of organizations. So you're not isolated. You're not all alone trying to figure out how to better yourself all at once. And so that's where, as you can see on the screen there, you can reach out to us, and we can set up a demo and discussion to kind of show you all the kinds of things that we can do, like we were talking today, and how that's going to make your business more efficient, give you that visibility, control how things flow through your organization, and really overall make your business processes better.
And MetaViewer does support all the Dynamics platforms?
We do, yep. So we are a Microsoft partner, and for that reason, we have specific developers for each of the platforms. So pretty much the same solution that we implemented in all those for any of the Dynamics platforms. We've actually even done some custom development where some people maybe have some third-party systems. Since the entire solution is our product, I've got people that can make it talk to other things as well. So sometimes we kind of pull in a few other pieces to help streamline processes.
Okay.
I know you want to end with Doug, but I just wanted to add to that, that being a partner and then being a customer and going through the implementation process on the other side of the table, MetaViewer has that process down cold. It was an absolute great implementation. Their team gave suggestions and really followed us through and made sure we were ready. It was one of the smoothest implementations I've ever been through. So just a great team to work with.
Okay, thank you, Diane. And I want to thank the rest of our panelists, Doug and Robert, for working through this session with us and the benefits of future AP and automation from invoice to payment. So thank you very much and have a great day.